Two speakers are asked the same question, approximately 1 year apart, about whether you need to be sponsored to enter the basic law enforcement training at Alamance Community College. The question is asked by the same Alamance County Commissioner, and listen to the answers that are given by each.
If Mr. Lashley and I decide we want to be police officers,
Come on.
I know,
I want you to go through POPAC.
we gonna pass. But hypothetically, we have to enroll in ACC and we have to pay tuition.
No, the officers for basic law enforcement, you have to be sponsored through an agency. You can't just come in and say, I want to be a police officer.
Okay, say if me and Lashley want to be Stabler and Benson, okay, on Law and Order. And, you know, in our minds, we'd be great. Can we just call you up and say, we want to be law enforcement officers because we watch Law and Order and we think we got this? Do we have to be sponsored, or can my affluent stockbroker over here pay for both of us and we go down there? I mean, how does that work? I want to know how this works because there's
Sure.
some confusion in this.
You could call and we would talk to you and we would go through a qualification process, and no, you don't have to be on somebody's payroll, or you don't have to have the sheriff's department paying for you. You can get in other ways.
Mr. Keene, the question was, do you have to be sponsored to get into this program, to get into the BLET program at ACC? And you said there are other ways. I wish you would tell us what some of those other ways are, because it looks like the evidence is pointing towards you have to be sponsored. Well, hello and welcome to Alamance County Talks Politics. My name is Keith, and in the first clips that you saw there, the first clip was of the Vice President of Workforce Development at ACC. His name is Gary Saunders. And Gary was asked the question from Commissioner Pam Thompson, do you have to be sponsored, or can we just walk in off the street and pay for it ourselves? And Mr. Saunders was very clear, very concise in saying, no, you cannot do that. You have to be sponsored by a law enforcement agency. That was in, I think it's September of 2022. If you fast forward a year, I think it was September, October of 2023, you have then interim President Larry Keene being asked the same question by Commissioner Pam Thompson. And he said his answer was there were other ways to get into this program. And he seemed to mean that sponsorship was not the only way. I don't know what those other ways or other means are. So I'm a little confused about that. But the question was, do you have to be sponsored? And he was clearly not willing to say that for whatever reason. You'll see the evidence points that you do have to be sponsored to get in. The point that I'm trying to make here is this. When he mentioned that, he said that he didn't necessarily say sponsorship was the only way. There was a speaker who got up there and spoke, and he preceded Larry Keene, the interim president of ACC, and he made the case that you have to be sponsored. He showed them the application. He gave it to the commissioners, and it clearly you have to have sponsorship. And after Barry got up there and spoke, the president got up there again and he doubled down. This is why this is such a big deal. I just don't understand why he did not, or was unwilling to say, hey, I made a mistake. I'm wrong. Or at least go and ask your people, is this right? Well, what you're going to see that I'm going to show you in just a little bit is that you do have to be sponsored, that you cannot just walk in off the street. I have evidence for that, and I'll show you in just a moment. But let's listen to the speaker, Barry Joyce.
A couple of weeks ago, I came to you about the Law Enforcement Training Center. And I went back and did some research. Of course, I worked at Alamance Community College for 10 years. And I handled BLET training, setting up courses and fire service training. So I know quite a bit about what's going on in these programs. And we had the interim president, come before me last time and made a comment that he didn't have to be sponsored or hired by the sheriff's department to attend BLET. Well, in front of you, you have the Alamance County requirements, Alamance Community College requirements to be a participant in the BLET program. If you look, it's highlighted. You must have a sponsor to verify you. okay, which means a law enforcement agency has to sponsor you. And you have to either be employed by a law enforcement agency prior to going into the class. And I'm not going to go through all these requirements, but it's very stringent requirements to get into this program. Somebody just walking in off the street can't get in BLET. Also check Fayetteville Tech, where I think he was president there for 14 years. First thing you see when you pull up Fayetteville Tech, same requirements. Got to be sponsored, got to be employed.
Now, in this meeting, Barry has just handed the Alamance County Commissioners the application that would need to be filled out and submitted to the BLET administration to see if they could be accepted. So Barry has handed that to the commissioners. The commissioners are looking at this, and you see there are places on there, you can't see it, but there are places on the application that specifically speak of being sponsored. And so Barry brings that up and says, you just can't walk in off the street. You have to be sponsored to be able to get in to this program. And now, right after Barry stands up in this meeting, this is the same meeting, Dr. Keene stands up there, and this is what he has to say.
The second item is a public service training center, and it will provide for BLET growth. And it's the local and regional law enforcement training opportunities. And I heard the speaker earlier indicate that it was just scheduled. First of all, everybody is not already hired. They're not already being paid. And they many times do come to you throughout the community and certainly other places as long as they are pursuing the basic law enforcement training program.
Mr. Keene, we agree with you that people will come from the community to try to enter into the BLET program. The point that we're trying to make is that those who try to enter the BLET program, they have to be sponsored or they will not be allowed to enter the program. I just don't understand why you are so unwilling to agree to that point and just say you have to be sponsored to enter this program. He's actually trying to sell this. And in selling it to the commissioners, he's trying to make it look like you're going to have this broad range of people just flooding in to become enter into this BLET program, which is not the case. But in his desire to try to sell it to the commissioners, he's being dishonest, and that is a problem. So here we have the basic law enforcement training student packet. As you can see, it is for Alamance Community College, the basic law enforcement training. And as we scroll down, this is, of course, the information, the application, things on that pertain to this. So we see a letter from the previous president. But then we get down here to the frequent questions and answers. And the questions are, how hard is basic law enforcement training? After graduating from BLET to certification last indefinitely? No, but notice this right here. This is the baby right here. This is the one we got to look at. How much does it cost to attend BLET? Notice the first point that they make after this. A law enforcement agency sponsorship is required to attend. So when Pam is asking the question, do you have to be sponsored? The answer is an unequivocal yes. You must be sponsored to attend this program. It's right there at the very beginning. But as you scroll down, we'll scroll down and look at a few more things. It's pretty clear. You just, as Barry said, you just don't walk off the street into this program, tell them, hey, I want to join it. No, look what all you have to do. You have to have all of these. Then notice here, one of the checklist items is a sponsorship verification form. Then you have to have a verification of employment if you are employed. But notice, let's scroll here and see what it says. Notice this is what was handed to the county commissioners. This is a sponsorship verification form. This was printed from this very page. And you see the person's information, the person who wants to be a part of the BLETs. There's some basic questions there. And then it says the sponsoring agency is responsible for conducting a thorough background investigation on all sponsored basic law enforcement training applicants. This requires a certain background checks. Whoever did this needs to check that. That's spelled wrong. It be conducted prior to the admission of being a trainee in the BLET class. And then as you continue to scroll down, notice you have to have the signature You have to have the law enforcement agency, but then you have to have the agency representative. Who is the one who is putting their name on that is representing this individual to be part of the BLET program? Who is that? And then they have that information. Then there's a whole host of other things that you have to fill out. But the basic thing is you do have to be sponsored. You cannot enter this program unless you are sponsored by a law enforcement agency. So that settles that, Mr. Keene. You see that. Now, what I want to say here is this. I went and I looked at Mr. Keene's background information. In fact, when I looked at some of his information as far as his schooling, I noticed that Mr. Keene has a bachelor's degree, a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration, awarded at Missouri State University. He also holds a Master of Science degree in Business Education from Pittsburgh State. I think it says University in Kansas. And then he earned his educational doctorate in higher education from Oklahoma State University in 1985. All I'm saying is this: he's got all of the credentials there. But Mr. Keene, one of the things I noticed when I finished my bachelor's, master's, whatever, is every time you write a paper, you write the paper, but then you have to cite sources to back up what you're saying to be true. You have to cite that so that the individual reading your paper can look down at the bottom, look at that reference, and primarily the way we did it was if it's online, you could click that link, and that link would immediately open up the information that you say you cited or quoted your information from, and be able to show them where you got your information. Well, we're doing this. We're citing the information, and I guess I'm somewhat troubled that you have an educational doctorate, you have a master's degree, you have a bachelor's degree, and you don't even do this. This is what troubles me about people who are in government is, you got to be able to prove what you're saying to be true and legitimate. And he didn't do that. All he had to do was probably just ask his BLET trainer, the teacher, or he could have just went out to the Alamance County Community College website for BLET, and he would have got his answer there. But he didn't do that. He chose not to. And again, that is unsatisfactory. Now we're going to go and look at I believe he was the president of the Fayetteville Technical Community College. He was the president there for, I think, 14 or 15 years. So let's look at what that application has to say. Now, Barry made mention that Larry Keene was the president of Fayetteville Technical Community College. And so I went out and I found some of the basic questions that are asked by the basic law enforcement students who are wanting to enter the program. And the first question on there is, what is a sponsorship, and does everyone have to have one? And notice the way the college answers this question. The basic law enforcement training program at Fayetteville Technical Community College requires all students in the course to be sponsored. There's that word, sponsored. And notice the word or they can be employed by a public, and notice it says city, town, county, or state, North Carolina law enforcement agency, and they have to maintain that sponsorship or employment. So they have to maintain the sponsorship or the employment throughout the course. Sponsorship simply means that a city, town, county, or state North Carolina law enforcement agency head or his or her designee has met and talked with you and is willing to sponsor you for the BLET. But Fayetteville Technical Community College, you do have to be sponsored, or you have to be employed with that sponsoring agency. So one of these city, town, county, or state law enforcement agencies, they could actually sponsor you without hiring you. They could sponsor you because they see promise in you, because they're not quite sure if you can do it, but they're willing to pay for all of those training things and get you into the program so that they can see. And then upon completion, they're not obligated to hire you, but they very well may. But so you see what Barry said is you've either got to be sponsored or you have to be employed. And, so I don't understand why Larry Keene made this such a difficult Q&A when it was so clearly answered in his previous college's Q&A on the BLET program. But as you can see, this is what troubles me about this is he is questioning what Barry said, trying to make Barry look or appear to look like he doesn't know what he's talking about. And yet all of this information is right here. And yet nobody stands there, nobody sits there, I guess, and questions him again. I mean, if I were Craig Turner, if I was Steve Carter, I don't think John Paisley's there. I'm not sure if he's virtual. If I were Bill Lashley, I would have asked, wait a minute, we were here a year ago and you said that, and the guy said, Saunders, Gary Saunders, I believe was his name. He said that you didn't have to be they said you did have to be sponsored to enter this program. Now you coming back and you say, no, it's a little bit more broad than that, when it really isn't. And I think that's disingenuous on his part. So do you have to be sponsored to enter the BLET program at Alamance Community College? You absolutely do. There's just no question about that. You have to be sponsored. My point in making this video is this: don't receive or take everything someone says you who's associated with government or some state agency and take it and believe it. You have to do your own homework. You have to follow up, ask the hard questions. And when you can't get the answer from them, you keep going to the next level. That's my point here. And we want to expose these things. We want to make sure that there are people being held accountable for the things that they say and things that they try to sell on a false basis. And so with that being said, my name is Keith. This is Alamance County Talks Politics. Stay informed, get involved. And until next time, take care.